Hey everyone, have you ever wondered what it's like to travel old US 40 through the Sierra Nevada in California? Well, today we're going to find out. I am in Rocklin, California, a sort of a beginning of the road as it travels through the Sierra. From Rocklin, we're going to make our way to Auburn, and then beyond that, we'll maybe make it to Colfax. Now, let's get started here from Rocklin. This area at Rocklin and Pacific in Rocklin, California, east of Sacramento, is obviously very modernized. Got a roundabout now. There's some new businesses, a cafe, and over here is the Sinclair gas station and liquor store. So it's definitely different than it was, but it is the beginning of Old Historic 40 in this part of the town. In 1928 was when this route was official and became Highway 40. Prior to that, there were various different designations. We'll be talking about the Lincoln Highway, which is an older highway. I-80 came to be in about 1960. So this was the route from about 1928 until 1960. How are you doing? You're looking for a friend, aren't you? Oh, you're such a good dog. So met this fella here next to the grill. Pretty nice. Not a fella, it's a her. How's it going, huh? How's it going? Oh, yeah. Next up we have the train depot, which is located on the eastern end of Rocklin. And I don't know much about this place except to say that it really isn't a part of old US 40. I think it was probably established in the 1970s. But it's a cool old funky place with old railroad cars, so it's definitely worth checking out on the way. Next we're just entering the town of Loomis. This country club is on the outskirts on the west side. This is the Loomis Town Hall building. It's a pretty cool spot. An old historic building. It's kind of crowded by trees right now, but it's a beautiful old building and it's in good shape. And it's located right on Main Street. This is Alice's Fresh Fruit Stand, and it was owned by Amelia Lemos from 1938 until 1967. And it still remains today. It's closed, but you can still see the cool old sign from the old days. This is the Valencia Club, located in Penryn, and it's just a few miles east of Loomis, California. And this establishment was open as the Hilltop Cafe in 1937. It was a Hilltop for about 10 years until the name changed in 1947, at which time it was renamed the Valencia Club. So it's been the Valencia Club since 1947. So this is a very cool historic spot that is still open today. All right, so kitty corner from the Valencia Club on the corner of Rock Springs and Taylor, we have what is called the Griffith Quarry Park and Museum. Now, unfortunately, this isn't open very much, and it's not open now, so we won't be going in. But this is the museum building, which is really nice. And then over this way is the park, and there's an information board over there, which we're going to check out. All right, so here's the information plaque about the Griffith Quarry Park. The guy who started, his name was Griffith, and it flourished from 1864 until 1918 when it closed. It was passed on to his great niece, which is Enid Griffith, and she was the last Griffith owner, and she died in 1976 and bequeathed it to Placer County, and then it became a park after that. And it should be noted that Griffith came from Wales with a background in working in quarries. When he came here, he started looking for gold and was not that successful, but he ended up starting this quarry, and it did quite well, and what they were seeking here was granite, so that was how he made his wealth. Here's some more information about the park. Map of the trails that you can visit, and some sights not to miss. From this viewpoint, you can see the remnants of the quarry. It almost looks like a river down there. Looks like wet. The water drains down there and it stays wet. So this is another view of the quarry here on my right, and if I swing around, there's this incredible open field here and a nice view. Here's some more information about the quarry. It's called the Penryn Granite Works, and of course that's the name of the town, and the town flourished just because of the granite quarry. Here's another view of the floor of the quarry. It looks like it's water with algae and green stuff floating on it. You can see these huge boulders here, and you can see where they were probably chipping away the granite. Here's another section of the quarry that I've come over to just hiking down in it. And they've got this fenced off because it's pretty steep down there, and there's that water down there again. If you look at this rock, you can see those marks, and those were actually drill holes. And what they would do is drill these holes about 6 inches apart and then drive a metal driver down in, and that would split the granite open. If you look down there, you can see a very squared off wall down in the quarry. I think that was one of the primary areas where they were pulling the granite out of. All right, so this place is pretty cool, and to be honest, I could spend a whole day exploring and hiking around here, and I'll probably do that someday, and I'm certain I could do a whole video just on this park. So I'm going to do a flyover to get a nice overview of the park. All right, so right there behind me, you can see the Penryn Post Office and the Penryn Branch Library. And if you look up at the top, you can see that it's called the G. Griffith Penryn Building there established in 1878. From the Griffith Quarry Park, I established that the Griffith Quarry was the entire reason for the existence of this town, Penryn. So it's not surprising that his name would be on this main building. Now I'm just about a quarter of a mile off of the main drag, so this is where this building is located. Still in really good shape today, 150 years old or so. It's definitely one of the historical landmarks in the area. So if you are doing Highway 40, it's not a bad idea to take this little short detour down to this building to check it out. You look at the back of the post office, you can see the stone, presumably granite structure. And that was, of course, contributed by Mr. Griffith himself. And there's a postal vehicle. All right, so I'm in Newcastle right now, and the thing to remember is that Old Highway 40 came through the town of Newcastle prior to 1928, and then after 1928, the road actually bypassed Newcastle. Another thing that's interesting about Newcastle is when they first built the railroad in 1864, the railroad actually ended here in Newcastle, and then from here they had to take stagecoaches up and over the summit, and it wasn't until April of 1865 that the funding for the railroad continued, and they started working on a railroad to continue on from Newcastle. Okay, here's what I'm doing. I went into Newcastle taking the old road, and now I'm exiting Newcastle. There's a tunnel that you go through, and then you get back on the bypass road. So what I'm going to do is turn on the bypass road and then head back to the junction and then check out the old gas station that's there. I'm standing at the corner of Taylor and Old State, and this is where the highways separate. In the old days, you could take the road into Newcastle, and then they built this bypass which goes through the tunnel. I'll show you in a minute. But right here on the corner is this old gas station, and it's got some funky old remnant vehicles here. This truck here that looks like a livestock or horse trailer, and then a couple of other old trailers. And you can clearly see that that's a gas station, or it was a gas station back in the day. And then there's some garages over to the left. Here are the garages, and of course you can see the old trailers, which would have been from the old 40 days for sure. There's an old camping trailer and then a larger trailer there, and you can see the bays where they probably did work on cars, which was commonly required back in the day. And then over to the right, again, you can see the gas filling area. One of the things I could say is that this place right now is kind of abandoned. It's got this old funky stuff hanging around, and it's got no trespassing signs, foothill security. But there's been a revival in the past of Route 66, of course, and now Old 40 is kind of experiencing the same thing, where people kind of want to see old stuff. And I could see this place easily becoming kind of a tourist stop where you could check out all the old vehicles and old stuff in this cool old gas station. They could get some old gas pumps and just maybe make a gift shop and have curios and stuff. But it's a pretty cool place, and I would love to see it restored, and I bet someday it will be. If you don't take the old route into Newcastle, you take the bypass, and this is what it looks like. Newcastle's just up above us, above the tunnel, and we instead go right through the tunnel, and that way we miss Newcastle. You can take that old highway into Newcastle back behind me before the tunnel, or after the tunnel you can also take the right here, and that will take you back into Newcastle. This is the Wise Power Plant, PG&E, and it was established in 1917. It was quite a wonder back then. It's still going today. It supplied electricity to Stockton and the Bay Area. All right, so this building right behind me here is the Horatch service station, and it was opened in about 1931, and Frank Horatch was the guy who ran it. And there's a bar inside, and then somewhere up on the hill behind it was a mine as well, so it was kind of a busy place. And apparently Mr. Horatch ran this place as late as 1957. This is another place that I look at, and I'm thinking that sometime in the future, if Old 40 becomes more of a tourist attraction, this is another place that could possibly be restored and reopened. Tourists would want to visit it. And if I look closely at the sign up there, you can still read Horatch in this indented area, but you can also see some other lettering that starts over there and continues on either side of Horatch. And I'm having a little bit trouble reading it, but I'm sure I can figure out what it says at some point. This text here is certainly legible. It says ice cream. You can see there's a home actually behind the station, and that's actually occupied. So of course I'm going to stay away. But here's a closer look at the gas station. I should also note that this place is technically in Ophir, O-P-H-I-R. It's just about a half mile southwest of Auburn. When we leave Ophir, we're almost in Auburn. We just got to jump on I-80 for a very brief moment, just one exit, and we get right off and we land in Auburn. And the first thing we see as we roll through is the old State Theater, which was established in 1930. Right, so this is the site of the original Auburn train depot that was established in 1865. And they've got a couple old train cars here to commemorate that. And this is a sculpture of a Chinese worker, Chinese coolie. It's actually 22 feet high, and I think it weighs something like 70 tons. It's concrete and rebar. And here's a bunch of information about the railroad. It was a really important part of California history after the gold rush. And this train depot is, of course, very important in the history of the California Railroad. All right, folks, right behind me here you can see the courthouse in Auburn. It's an absolutely stunning building, definitely worth a visit. Really nicely maintained, nice grounds. And while I got you here, if you are enjoying the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. So I'm going to walk around the court building a little bit. Okay, so what we're going to do is, rather than walk around the building, we're going to do a flyover, and you get a feeling for the beauty of this incredible courthouse in Auburn, California. It really is an historic building. It's fantastic to look out and check out. And I had some discoveries after walking around, going inside, and found out that the museum was open. So stick around for that. We're going to walk around the building, and after that we're going to enter the museum and check it out and see what it has to offer. So as I walked around, I saw the museum was free, so I decided to check it out. And I went in the door, and the first thing I saw was a big metal detector and a sheriff. And I thought I was in trouble, but all was good. So I walked in, and there was this docent named Lynn, and she was quite wonderful. And there was a guy working on a new exhibit, which is an old soda machine from the late 1800s or early 1900s. All the fixtures are silver, and he pointed out it was a lot of work to get it cleaned up. Then I checked out the exhibit, which was chronological, and the first thing was some bones, and then some Native Americans. Following that, their baskets, and then I got back to the exhibit, and then we started looking at the early white settlers and then the gold rush era. Following that, sort of the beginning of the railroads and the technology and all that stuff, and the advent of the written word, where there was the printing press and the first telephones and mailboxes and things like that. A lot more written history. And then we moved through after the railroad era, then we kind of moved through the telegraph and TV era. And following that, of course, was World War I. And they had a nice exhibit, which was about the same time as the Lincoln Highway was established in 1918. And of course, we had that pandemic flu. And then following that, we get into kind of what is the more modern era and just how it affected the area. And then what's really interesting is this next exhibit, because this applies to what we're talking about today, which is the old Highway 40, sort of the car and gasoline and road era, and the Americana travel in a car, not on train, and be more independent. So there's all this kind of old, oil signs, and then we move over and there's a Coke machine and license plates from all the early years. So that was pretty incredible and definitely applicable to what we're talking about today. An exhibit for Lincoln, I think that's the town of Lincoln or the train station. And then following that, there's an exhibit with some real gold nuggets, like huge gold nuggets in the safe, and there's some information about it there. I think it's quite valuable, but I guess it's safe in the courthouse, who knows. And following that, I had a really interesting conversation with Lynn, and she told me about the women's prison. So originally, the prison in there was only for men. They didn't have accommodations for women, but they finally had a female murderer, and they had to figure out what to do with her. So they built a women's prison under the staircase, and they've kind of restored it so you can actually go look at it, which is really cool. And here's some information about the jail. And then you can actually go up. They got plexiglass there, but you can peek over the top of the plexiglass and you can see the cell under the stairway. If you look on the roof there, you can see it's actually stairs, and you see the bucket there. You know what that's for. And then there's a water jug and a bed, and that's it. It's really pretty cool that they've decided to restore that. And if you look outside, the cell's under the stairs there, and then that little square thing, that's a window for the cell. That's the only window they had. At least the female inmates could look outside and see what's going on a little bit. And if you look closely as we were flying over the courthouse, you may have seen the red and white firehouse, and there's an old 1941 restored vehicle in there. So I just have to say, Old Town Auburn is really cool. I really enjoyed walking around there and checking out the exhibits and the fire station and all that. There's another view of the fire station. You can see the courthouse in the background in this shot, which is very cool. All right, so as we head north out of Auburn, we come to a place called Awful Annie's. Now, this place was originally called Lou La Bonte. Lou La Bonte was a Hollywood producer, and he opened this place in 1946. And it wasn't until recently that it was the name was changed to Awful Annie's. Now, what happened was, this is the original sign, and they just changed the lettering. They just put Awful Annie's on. But the cook you see on the left, the chef, and the little squiggle around him, that's original. So they just modified the sign to say Awful Annie's, and this happened, I believe, in 2015. So this place, established in 1946, was certainly an icon along Old US 40. And one of the other things I should mention is you can hear the sound of the I-80. The Old US 40 that we're on right now is literally right next to 80. So the businesses that were in this area didn't really suffer. All right, folks, I'm at a place here called Ikeda's, and Ikeda's is an historical Old 40 place. It's actually started by Sam Ikeda in 1950. It was just a fruit stand by the side of the road, and you can see right out here in front of it, this is Old 40, and then literally right next to it is I-80. So what happened was, this place did not go under when the interstate was built, so it just kept going. So what started as a fruit stand later turned into like a burger joint and a full-on produce shop that has all kinds of condiments, canned jellies, everything, drinks and everything. So it's kind of remains a good stop now, and it also started as an Old US 40, a place to stop. So it's evolved over the years. And I should point out that Sam and Sally Ikeda were actually farmers, and they brought their own produce to the stand to sell by the side of the road. That's how it all got started, and it's still going strong today, because of the fact that it's next to I-80 and people still stop. It's kind of a destination stop. All right, folks, this is a significant place because this Oliver's is the last surviving gas station on Old US 40. And it's also the site of this old Subaru car here, which is pretty cool. It's been here for years. It's one of the early Subaru models. This establishment was originally a company store for a manufacturer, and then in the 1920s it was converted to a gas station. Sometime in the 1940s, it actually burned down and was rebuilt in 1950. And this has been here like this since 1950. So again, this is the last surviving gas station that's along Old US 40. So let's go inside and just check it out a little bit. Howdy. Grab me a Gatorade. It's crazy hot out today.
You too. Thank you.
It's awfully hot out there.
It is.
How long have you been working here?
7 years.
And this place is, my understanding, it's been here since the 20s.
Yep, there's a plaque on the front of the
Okay.
building that has a little bit of historical information if you're interested.
I'll check that out for sure.
246.
And you guys busier in the summer? Or?
Yeah, much busier in the summer and especially on Taco Thursday. Yep, this is the calm before the storm.
Okay. And then in the winter, do you stay open though? Or?
Yeah, we still stay open.
Okay, cool.
It's not as busy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Howdy. Okay, we're going to check out the plaque. It's out here. Oh, here it is. Behind the dough. I'm kind of one-handed this, sorry. I'm actually got the camera under my shoulder. But anyway, Oliver's in 1889. Walter Geff had set up a powder factory, which was part of the giant powder company from the Bay Area. It's reported that 22 people died from an explosion from 1917 when the factory was dismantled. This building originally was a company store. Ole Hayworth opened it as a gas station and grocery store in the 1920s. Destroyed by fire in the 40s. It was replaced by the current structure in 1950. The land was purchased from the Harrington family by the Bailey family in 1955, who remain the current owners. It became Oliver's in 1982. This is the last surviving operational service station from the Lincoln Highway, Victory Highway, Highway 40 era in Placer County. Well, there you have it. I meant to mention it before, but when you leave Foresthill on Old US 40, it's just kind of a windy, quiet road. There's not much on it, and definitely Clipper Gap is the next thing. There's a sign, Old Route 40, says to take a right. So it kind of meanders back and forth across I-80, but it's nice that it's still around. Another undercrossing. This one is arch-shaped. Here we are in downtown Colfax. It's just our luck that a train is rolling through right now. Now, the early travelers would note that it was one of the larger towns that they would come upon, and there was good accommodations here. They had hotels, place to stop. There was a couple of garages where you could get your car worked on, which was a common thing back then. And of course, there's a train station, but we're talking about the travelers on Old US 40. So this part of the old town, if you look across the street, it's kind of touristy. A lot of these places have been kind of restored. An interesting one over there is the Pastime Club. Looks like a bar, and it's got a very old sign. And then some of these other places, there's this very old brick building right here that you can see. That looks old. This one's old. A lot of these buildings are pretty old, so they've been here a long time. Now, of course, the road keeps going, and we're going to explore it some other time. But I think this video has gotten long enough, so this is just going to cover the section from Rocklin, California to Colfax. And next up, we'll do Colfax up, we'll probably over Donner Summit. I'd like to thank you all for coming along on this great adventure. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, thanks for watching.